Welcome back to Hernando Hot Rods. Today we're going to be working on the 72 International Scout, getting the front floor on the driver and passenger side done, working on the subframe, making sure that's rust free, removing the fiberglass, and then getting this thing welded up with 16 gauge sheet metal, primed and seam sealed. So let's get it. All right, right now working on this driver side wheel tub. The passenger side is fine, but in here I made this patch for the wheel tub from the floor side. This is where the floor ends right here. I didn't know it was this bad on the inside of the wheel well. I knew this hole was there, but I did not know all this junk was there. So what I'm gonna do is, this is the inner wall right here. I'm gonna cut out and make a backwards L so I can have this strip underneath replaced, because it's all expanded from the rust getting to it. And then I have two rust holes, which I'm fairly confident I could just weld up as long as the stuff around it is okay. So I got those two there. Then I got this guy. This is another expansion of metal, just like over here. But this is all, I don't know if you could, it's picking it up on camera, but it's all expanded and wallowed out. And then right there is the floor structure. So, and you can see this from the inside. So I'm gonna, there's a little something there too. So I'm gonna cut this square, tack that up. And then I have little holes here. I think I can get two from the inside. But then on the inside of, on the floor, I just stripped all this down. You can see a dent right there. Right here, where this pitting is, there's a good amount of holes, which these are the holes that I was just showing you from the inside of the wheel well. But I'm gonna take another strip, replace that, and hopefully I could just weld that. If not, then that's getting replaced too. All right, so I got this piece clamped in. It's gonna get a tack weld right where this was before, and then I'm gonna go around, do all the other three sides. Then over here, I made this strip. I'm gonna get this tacked along the edge of the new steel that I had put recently. Once this is tacked up, I'm gonna remove the clamps, do each end, and then I can make my square and hit all this and make it one again. And then I will have fun later doing these little holes and hoping for the best. All right, so after a long fought battle, I got this all welded in. Just gonna need a little bit of putty, even though it's a wheel well, who really cares, but I'll just do where the welds are. I gotta finish this box. I ended up closing those holes. I ended up doing this square as you saw me tacking. And then I had another hole open up after I got this hot enough. Another thin area showed its face. And I still gotta work on that, but that's a project for another day, because I had a feeling it was just gonna blow open, and sure enough it did, because it's too thin. So I'll have to box that, and then I have to box this edge here anyway. So is what it is. That's a whole other day's worth of work. So I'm gonna call it. so got the front holes all done, got the floor done. I'm gonna have to replace the hole, which probably lands just past this weld here, but she's solid again. Time to grind it flat and make it look pretty. All right, got that all ground down. I had to re-drill this hole for the back seat mount because it was part of that section that I cut off down here. Oh, wrong one. Right here. Looks like it was starting to pit around it too, so, and all around here. These are really deep pits. They were showing their face through the backside also. So got all this cancer removed from this section. Be a lot stronger now, especially more important for a seat to be there. I just put a couple of ugly tacks in here because just to bridge the gap between the two, but this will get seam sealed over, but just to add a little bit of strength. But there was so much like shit, like seam sealer and stuff stuck in there, so I was just shooting in the dark there. But I'll get a grinder, grind that flat before we put seam sealer on there. This will get a little bit of putty. Probably just needs it just because there's some pitting there too. But this section is completely done. I think that might be it for this, from this ledge back. All right, spent all day doing some body work on the inside, little dings and dents, some on the tubs, some on the walls where the welding was. Just getting out any kind of grind marks, something that's gonna show up in a bed liner texture. So, and then I also got rid of the rest of what paint was left. And I wiped all these little spots, which I think is like the beginning of rust starting because it's in the metal and it was not coming out with an abrasive. And I don't want to remove metal. So, got the tubs all seam sealed and right in front of it as well. I got this whole floor sitting in Osfell right now. It's kind of shiny and it looks more dark than when I was using abrasive on it. The only little orange that you see should be that primer color that is sitting in the pit pockets. But the rest of it, I think the Osfell is doing its work, neutralizing the rust. And now I'm gonna let this sit overnight, dry out, and then tomorrow we can hit it with some sealer, and then it'll stay that way until we're ready to put the insulation on, which is we're gonna use some lizard skin, which will give it a bed liner texture, but it'll insulate both thermally and sound wise. And then it'll get a top coat, so it'll just look like color match bed liner, which is pretty gangster. But that's gonna sit overnight, and tomorrow we'll get to priming it. Well, turns out I got impatient, so time to lay this primer. All right, so I guess my phone forgot the time lapse. I swore I hit the button but nothing happened, but got this thing in primer. This is coat number 1. You can see the dry and overlap areas that are a little bit thinner. About somewhere out there, nice wet area that still needs to dry. So I'm gonna wait 15 for this coat and then we'll lay one more down. So let's go. All right, we're out here on the Scout again. We are working on the driver floor today. I don't know if I can get this piece in, but right now, for sure, I gotta get this rocker closed off because right here, I had cut out the rust. This was just one big panel that was kind of just barely stitch welded together, but it was all, I don't know what it was made out of. It was like galvanized steel or something, and then fiberglass, of course, because that was all over this thing. But right here on this back wall of the rocker, it's supposed to come up in 90, which it does right now, but this overlapping piece is supposed to come across to here, and it's all one closed off rocker. I need to remove this overlapped piece, which you can kind of see I've been prying up on a little bit here. That needs to be removed, and then I need to close off this rocker completely, because then the floor comes from this edge out and then kicks up to a 90 which is where the door seal connects to. So that'll be coming all the way across from edge to edge, and then that'll be stitch welded along here and stitch welded along the supports, or rosettes on the supports, and then stitch welded across this back piece here. But for now, I got to get this rocker closed off before we start actually applying any kind of floor sheet metal. So let's do it. Just got done cleaning up the whole rocker here. I got all the extra floor metal off. I cleaned up this edge to make sure that all the metal was good there. That way I could replace it if needed while I have access to the backside. I got a couple cut throughs. Maybe, I think I have one, and then just some grind marks I'm gonna just fill in. That way this lip is stronger, and then I can connect these two pieces, overlap, that way it's nice and sealed. Then I started working my way forward here. I got fiberglass in the corner, no surprise there. And then that fiberglass transitions down to this pocket, which I'll worry about this pocket once the new floor is in place, because that is currently missing. This is all resin down here. I started grinding out. Now I started working on the last section of this floor that I had left, and look at all this dirt that's just chilling in here. This is what rots everything out. So that explains why the floor is so shot. I mean, the metal is still pretty thick there, but I hope the brace underneath is good still. I mean, it's just pouring out. So I gotta clean all this up, and then I gotta undo this body mount here. And I think I have a little trick in mind that I'm gonna use for that. But right now we gotta get these 3 strips removed. This should be easy once the body mount. It should just come right off because I cut both sides of it. These have spot welds, and I'm guessing this part has spot welds. So I gotta get all this cleaned up before we can move forward. So let's get it. Okay, so as you see in the time lapse, I got all the center sections of the floor cut out besides what is spot welded to the subframe. I'm happy because I just found more cancer, which normally I wouldn't be happy, but I was already replacing this floor because of some crappy fiberglass work and a lot of pitting. So rather than doing little sections of patches, I just decided to do one sheet, but I'm glad I did anyway, because look at this lip here. This is the door seal lip that is connected to the floor. This is all one piece from this edge here all the way out, and then it picks up with the door seal. And what happens is if this is not seam sealed, or the seam seal cracks or just, you know, disappears, it allows moisture to get in between the top of the rocker, because this is all one piece. This comes across and then stops like here on the floor. Yeah, like here on the floor. And then this floor gets laid on top of it, and then this kicks up the lip for the door seal. But if moisture gets in between there, it'll rot out the rocker as it did that side. So as soon as I started peeling up on this, rust chips start coming out of it. So I got to get this all cleaned up, see if the rocker needs to be sectioned in on top. And I'm glad we're getting rid of this cancer, because this would have showed its face down the road. Alright, just on a little bit of a rain delay, waiting for everything to dry up, but I removed this panel here that was flat. It was supposed to go all the way across, but the piece that went that way was all rotted out that we removed last video. So I had this section taken out, and get in there with a shop vac, clean all that trash up. This was my first cut. I gotta weld this back together, clean it up, make it all one piece. I'll hammer and dolly this so it's flat again. I got a little nick there, weld that, and a little nick there, weld that up, grind it down, make it clean, get it painted. I gotta still remove this piece, and then we're gonna work our way forward. So once all this stuff kind of dries up, I'm also gonna strip this thing with my little abrasive wheel and see how bad the pitting is on this. It still is pretty strong. Passes the old screwdriver test. I'm gonna get everything cleaned up, welded, grinded, and then we're gonna remove this up here from here down, and I'm sure there's a bunch of goodies in here of fiberglass resin. Let's go. All these braces all welded and cleaned up. Little spots of the rocker cleaned up where I had a little bit of cutting. Same thing on the braces. Got these all hammered and dollied. They're all straight and somewhat smooth, but they are sturdy, more importantly. Working my way up to the front here, and it's the same as the other side. A bunch of Carolina clay, because that's where this thing was originally from. We really don't have clay in Florida, but this brace is supposed to look like that on the inside. So I'm gonna get the rest of this metal cut out. This bolt was round, not hexagonal. So I'm going to cut this piece off, get it out of the way, and just try and grind that bolt out. And then I can separate the two edges separately and get that all cleaned up and work my way towards this fiberglass. I got this whole front section cut out. I just have this that's stuck there by pinch welds. I gotta remove that. And then I still got this fiberglass paper mache going on over here. That is a mission for another day. So I'm gonna leave this section the way it is, get this in some OSPO and paint, and call it a night. So we'll get back to it tomorrow. All right, another day on the Scout. Today I did not feel like removing that said fiberglass mess there. Maybe I'll get to it later, but I removed that vent, which is 5 Phillips screws, and then that just comes out with there's a seal that goes around there. What else did I do? So far, I also pulled this side out. Same thing. There's a bunch of vents in here. I got to vacuum out. That way it doesn't rust in the future. I removed the clutch rod that comes here to a third pedal. Some call it the man pedal, but this is going to be auto. So we're going to close up that hole, which I made little paper templates for. And we're closing up this hole. I don't remember what the hell went there, but we're closing it up anyway because we don't need it. Especially with all the other holes that are up here on the firewall from factory. In order to pull the pedals out, which are over there, I had to undo these 2 1/2-inch nuts that are on to a stud that is, I assume, welded to this undercowl. So I had to drop the column a little bit. Luckily, I didn't have to undo anything on the actual column. Even these I left alone, which there's a gap there, so I guess this is kind of loose. But I need to do that to get the rod all the way out because it hits this undercowl. So I had to drop it, and then I could kind of give this thing some angle and then pull the rest of the rod out, pull the brake pedal out, and the retainer for all 3 pedals was actually the thing that goes here, the rod that had a clamp on the end of it. I'll show you over here. This guy, this was holding onto the end of that. So here's your, I guess this would be clutch. This is clutch, brake, gas. Gas was bolted on by itself. Oh, this is gas, like so. So we got clutch, brake, gas. This is bolted with 2 1/2-inch bolts and nuts, just bolted through the firewall, simple. And then this is that post I was telling you about. So I had to back this out far enough to drop this out from in between the column. And then once I got the brake pedal out, I could angle this enough to pull it from out of the cowl without dropping the whole steering column, like from the firewall. And then the only thing prior to that that's retaining this whole piece is the clutch rod, which sits on this little post, and you can see it's got the little angle thing here, and then that's what goes on top of it, and then that's what retains the whole assembly. So right now I'm going to try and get this the top side of the rocker panel welded in. I'm going to weld all these cut throughs prior. We're going to rosette this edge and then butt weld this edge. Same thing, on butt weld these 2 edges, because this is technically not floor. This is top of what rocker is left. So I'm replacing technically the top of the rocker, not the floor. And then from here to here, like you saw on the other side, is what is exposed of the top of the rocker. Got the rocker all ground down, got it in my favorite Seymour's weldable paint, and she's sealed off, so no more possibilities of this rocker rotting out for the time for the next 100 years or so. You can see where I did my rosettes, just ground those down. That doesn't matter, it gets plated over up until here. Might need a little putty on the outside just to make it perfect. But yeah, from the door seal on that side to this side is where the floor starts to that seam over there. But that's it. That's solid. And now we can work our way up here. I already started making that, which is down there, but I started making this square for the floor, and then I gotta patch those two up. So I'm gonna try and get that done today. If not, we'll continue tomorrow. All sealed up. I got those two spots ground down. Just gonna hit it with my favorite Seymour stainless blast, in case, one, to keep it from rusting since it's outside, but two, in case I need to go back and weld it, I can weld over this stuff. So right now I'm waiting for these four corner patches to come in. That one still has a boatload of fiberglass chilling in there. That's awesome. I got to remove that strip and clean that up also. But I think right now I'm going to work on just getting rid of this last little bit of cancer that I believe is what's left of the floor rot here. I got to clean this little lip up too, because that's what's going to kick up and butt up to this little seam here. So time to cut this crap out. As you saw in the time lapse, got this all cleaned up, got all the cancer out of it. Got a little bit of pitting here, but it's solid. This is like a back floor brace, and this gusseted brace has the body mount, so I guess that's what connects all the way across from body mount to body mount, and then the bolt goes through, and then there's a nut, a bolt and nut right here. So this isn't technically floor, but this is a underfloor brace, and then the floor lays on top here. So we're just going to do some rosettes on the back side, get these other three sides welded, but I'm probably going to make this in three pieces, do a rectangle, and then work on my half moon and try and get that super flush and clean, so it looks like there was never cancer. So let's get making those patch panels. Alright, out here working on the Scout again. I got this shoehorn piece that closes off the door jamb area and is also part of the door seal. I got a patch panel that goes here. I got to remove the spot welds going along this drip edge, and then I got two screws here. I don't know if they're going to come out. If I was a betting man, I'd say no. I'm probably going to have to grind those heads off. And then over here, I got a patch panel for this little area. This is where all the compacted fiberglass was. So I'm gonna undo spot welds coming up here and then cut across wherever this lands on as far as height goes, and then we're gonna butt weld the top, rosette the edge, and then this will get stitch welded to the floor, and this will sit under the floor on this side like so, and then or maybe it'll sit on top. I guess I'll see where it lands height-wise. This looks like it's not fully at a 90 degree right now anyway. So I'll figure that out as we go. I guess it depends on where these screws land too and how flush this thing sits. So let's get removing this old garbage. Got this corner all done. Got it in my favorite Seymour stainless blast, so I can, in case I gotta weld to it later, which I do when I do the floor section. But she's looking clean and rust free. Time to work on this ugly mess. All right, so up here, messing with the front. This has gotten completely out of hand, but so there's a bend up here, a little 90 that kicks off, that has 2 nuts, but that is actually just bolted, but the bottom is tack welded, so I just got that ripped out. But that kicks up from underneath the floor, which is why I cut this section of floor out. I'll replace it later. I'd rather get this correct, but that connects to this sidewall here, so it actually passes the floor, and I'll show you later, but there you go, right there. This is the top of the rocker. So the rocker continues forward. It's hidden by the fender, but the top side, this section, is still continues from here, coming all the way forward to the back of the front wheel here. And you see all the dirt and stuff that's just caked up, which is probably why this rot out. And then on this fender well, it rot out right here. But yeah, this is all one piece here. Didn't know, now I know. And that goes to the inner fender well, and then this is spot welded to the top of the rocker. So now I'm gonna cut this little lip here, bing bang boom, rip this shit out, re-drill my holes, nut and bolt this front flange, spot weld the top, butt weld this edge, hit this spot weld, get this panel replaced, and then I'll re-put in the floor. I'll probably just cut out this whole section, make it all one new piece. That way it looks nice and clean. But yeah, this has been a battle to figure out, because there was just so much fiberglass and stuff caked on this corner, which is now peeled back, but on this edge here, that it was hard to tell where the thing went. But yeah, we'll get this cut out, cleaned up, and get the new panel in place. Out here grinding, welding again. As you saw in the time lapse, I just got this front little pocket. Wait, where's that? There we go. Got that all ground down. Might need a little love to make that completely smooth, but looking stout. No more rust, no more fiberglass, more importantly. Now I'm gonna replace this floor piece that allowed me access to this down here and to clean all that up. I might, no, I don't think I'm gonna. I'm just gonna do this piece here, and then I can grind this one long weld there. And then this edge will be covered by the floor, and this edge will be covered by the seam sealer. And we're done in this area. So let's get this bread. Out here again working on the Scout, but today we're gonna do the passenger side. I'm just gonna clean everything up tonight, what daylight I have left, and then tomorrow hopefully replacing these panels. So let me flip the camera around and show you guys what I'm working on. So same thing, front upper kicker area below the little footwell vent. This is a section that's left of the previous floor. And I'm going to do the same thing, cut my little window here so I could access the piece that goes past the floor, which is still connected to this. I got to remove all this fiberglass. And once I get this all prepped, we can put the panel in. Same procedure as the driver's side. And then over here, we have the same little shoehorn panel, but for some reason, unlike the driver's side, passenger side, where it is spot welded to, still exists. So I gotta clean that up, which is weird because everything above it rotted out. So gotta get this cut out and cleaned up so it can look like that. right, last video, I got this all cleaned up, got it all ground down, welded where it needs to be. I also got this little section done over here, looking clean. This gets seam sealed, and then there's going to be a panel that butts up to this, and then this line here gets seam sealed, and then the floor comes over the top of this little flange piece here, and then weather stripping or the door seal sits here. So now I had to cut this section of floor out, 1 because it was rusted, 2 because it had fiberglass on it, and 3 so I could access this bottom section of the panel. That's looking super clean, just needs a little bit of filler right where the weld is. But besides that, I'm gonna get this, I gotta get this little cut through here, right there, weld it up, get that sealed, and then we're gonna make this square, get that welded up, grind it down to look like that over there. Dang. And then we can move over here, which I don't think I'll get to tonight, but when I pick up on the next video, I'll probably get to that. I totally forgot to finish that section. So let's get that done. I have this back brace here that connects the frame to the body. This is where the actual body mount is. Kind of hard to see because it's super compressed. Bushing is smushed up in there, maybe in there. Yeah, you can see it. So that bolts through up here on the back side. But as you can see, this is all A out. So before I lay this floor and cap this back wall, I need to get this all non-holy again. So we're gonna cut from this 90, which is on the back side. We're gonna cut from this part down to the front of the brace, which also kicks down. So just from this gusset and 90 here, back and up. So we're gonna cut a big L, and it looks like it stops right here. So I'm gonna lob it off there, cut it across. I'm not worried about these holes because that gets capped off with a new piece of sheet metal on the front side. So more concerned about structure here than cosmetic. So let's make this thing non-holy again. All right, got a lot of time fitting this piece of metal. As you can see, I got this top edge, which is the factory one, butting up to the new piece. I'm not gonna be able to get into this pocket, but that gets sealed off anyway. I mean, those two little holes aren't gonna be that structural anyway with this weld being there. I cut too far across, gonna have to close that up. Then I have that vertical where the clamp is. Same thing on the front side here. This was open from factory. I don't know if I'm gonna weld that up because I don't know, maybe I'll just throw some tacks and then it'll get the floor on top of it, and then this is gonna get buzzed up. Same thing across here, went a little too far, and we're gonna get in there, and whatever I can't get on the top here, I'm gonna try and hit from underneath, because yeah, that's pretty much all I can do because I don't want to weld upside down and I don't feel like grinding upside down. So goal is to hit the top edge from the inside, or from the outside technically, and then hit everything else in here. So everything's looking flush, clean. Let's get her glued up. All right, couple hour job done. Got this bottom brace section where the rot was. It's just like a big C. And then I got this backside all welded up. We're gonna worry about those holes later. That's just cosmetic as far as sealing the floor, but this was an actual brace that sits underneath the driver floor. So we got this in undercoating, everything's looking clean. And then all those other holes will be worked from the inside on this back panel, which is last to go in once we get the floor pans in. Right now I'm going to focus on getting just the center section and the firewall stripped, and I'm doing that first before doing this section of the driver's side floor. That way all the water can make its way out and hopefully it can dry quick, and then I can get this floor done today. So right now I'm going to get this stripped down to the steel hopefully, and then we'll go from there. So I'll put you guys on time lapse. So as you saw with the time lapse, I finished up welding the front of the driver floor. Right now I need to make the panel that bridges this opening here, just makes everything look flush and clean. So what I did, if I don't rip it completely apart, is I taped this to the top of the floor here, and then I traced my edge, I traced my floor edge, and I just went halfway because that's what I'm going to make the panel for right now. And I use this crease because that's what I'm gonna butt weld to, and I'm also gonna do stitches going to the floor, and then it'll all get seam sealed and all be cleaned up and ready to go. And once I get that stitch welded on, I'll use this paper method again and try to do the same on the passenger side. And then there'll be a little stitch vertically in the center of the hump, you know, where the two pieces meet, right there. And I think that'll look pretty clean, and it'll get all get seam sealed anyway, but it'll look way better than having this ugly opening that seems to catch water and, I don't know, pocket change. So we're gonna get this sealed up and work our way to the passenger side. Well, I totally forgot to record welding this in, but there she is. I'll get you guys on time lapse when I weld in the passenger side. So far so good though. I have a little bit of a gap here. I might still add a tack in there, but it's pointless to even weld it. I just did a little extra around the tunnel because it's not moving, but I figured why put a stitch weld there when it's just going to get seam sealed over anyway. So it's plenty strong, it's only cosmetic anyway, and it looks damn good. So on to the passenger side. I got everything welded up. I got a bunch of stuff ground down on my rosettes and whatnot. Right now I got it all wiped down. I got the tunnel stripped. I got most of the firewall stripped, all that matters. And then right now I'm gonna lay the seam sealer on where all the seams are. Before I hit everything, I sprayed it with OSPO to kill / neutralize any rust. And then I'm wiping it down with wax and grease remover, because if you just leave it with OSPO, the tape will not stick. Still having a problem with that, even though I wiped it down. But next, I gotta tape the passenger side, get this thing all seam sealed, wipe it down again, and hopefully get this thing in primer today. That would be awesome. All right, got this whole thing seam sealed, looking decent, pretty clean. Try to keep the lines as straight as possible with the tape. It's so damn hot out here that the seam sealer is almost turning into silicone before I can even pull the tape up. So I had to be quick with it when I did the second half. First half is a little sloppy on the driver's side, but I can always clean that up later on with a razor blade. But now it's time to get this thing in primer so I don't have to worry about it rusting anymore. So far, so good. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.